This is the Project Management Podcast. We bring project management to beginners and experts. Find us on the web at pm-podcast.com or send your emails to info@pm-podcast.com. Hello and welcome to this premium episode number 152. I am Cornelius Fichtner. This is the Project Management Podcast. Nice to have you with us. This is another premium episode. Normally, our premium episodes are only available to our paying premium subscriber. And as a paying subscriber, you get access to all episodes starting from number 1. A new episode, usually once per week. You get a PDF transcript of all our interviews. That's starting with episode 136. And as a premium subscriber, you're also automatically entered in all our promotional giveaways. But every now and then, we release a premium episode for everybody so that free listeners can hear what they are missing from the premium version. And this here is one of those free premium episodes, so to speak. In the interview today, we meet once again Brian Weiss. He is PMI's Vice President of Product Management, and Mark Emery. He is the business owner of the new CCRS. The reason why we meet them again is a simple one. Have you ever wondered how PMI manages their internal projects? I mean, we all heard the old saying that the cobbler's children have no shoes. And this saying refers to the fact that a busy cobbler will be so busy making shoes for his customers that he has no time to make some for his own children. So the question is this then. Does PMI get so busy defining and publishing standards in project management, like the PMBOK guide, that they completely forget to apply these standards on their own internal projects? Let's find out in our interview. I introduced Brian Weiss to you before in last week's episode, so here is more about Mark Emery. Mark Emery is the Director of Integrated Services at PMI, where he is responsible for member and certification holder contact centers around the globe, including PMI application processing and exam delivery. He and his team are recognized throughout the organization for providing world-class service to PMI's customers with a consistent focus on customer advocacy and delivery. Prior to coming to PMI in 2005, he has held a variety of operations positions in the healthcare, publishing, and information technology industries for more than 10 years. He holds a BA degree in political science from Rutgers University and an MS in Public Administration from West Chester University of Pennsylvania. He is a native of Pennsylvania and currently resides in Chester County, Pennsylvania, along with his beautiful wife and daughter, who will be starting kindergarten this fall. Enjoy the interview.
The Project Management Podcast's feature interview. Today with PMI's Brian Weiss and Mark Emery.
Brian Weiss, Mark Emery, welcome back to the Project Management Podcast. Thanks again for your time.
It's great to be here.
Good to be back.
So let's get the most pressing question out of the way right at the start, before we even say what this project is all about. On this particular project that was done PMI internally, did PMI follow the framework that it had outlined in the PMBOK guide?
100% yes.
Really? So how happy then are you with the result?
Extremely happy because, as our value of project management research told us, there's no one way to do project management. So the PMBOK guide, like it does for, thousands upon thousands of practitioners around the globe and thousands upon thousands of organizations, it creates a framework by which we want to practice project management here at PMI. Because the way you practice project management changes based upon your company culture, your company orientation, what geography, the way your workforce is dispersed. So we 100% utilize the principles found within the PMBOK guide. I'm not sure why you would do anything else. It's how most people practice the profession most of the time, and we applied it within PMI's context.
Okay. Had you considered, after all, this is a software development, a web development project, had you considered using any of those, upcoming hip methodologies like Scrum, Agile, Extreme Programming, anything of that?
Well, we did, but I don't want to make sure we don't confuse two issues here. The PMBOK guide is the framework by which we're practicing project management.
Absolutely.
Agile and one of those other methodologies you're talking to is the way we might do it or apply it here. And we did utilize some Agile methodology with the software development portion of the CCRS system. We had iterations and we had scrums and we had folks doing the things that they need to do to keep that progressing along. But it's the way that methodology or the software development fit within the framework of our project management here that makes the most sense, because that's how we are able to apply it here. So they're not mutually exclusive conversations. Doing Agile development within a project management framework or process is being done by organizations around the globe. We follow the same practice here.
Thank you very much for clarifying that, because so often I hear that, the PMBOK guide and Agile, they are just not that irreconcilable. And I completely disagree with those kind of statements, where you take just one side and say you either have to do this or you have to do that, and you cannot combine them at all.
Yeah, there is no one way. Again, you have to do what fits within your organization, but also there's no one way for each project. There might be a portion of the project where Agile development doesn't make sense, maybe in the creation of the financial or the risk plan or something, but when you're doing the software development, it might make sense, or other places. People tend to confuse the framework that you do project management within, the process you're following, and the types of methodology you use to execute the components of that project. And obviously, you run into similar situations.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's come back to the project that we want to talk about here from within PMI. You've let the cat already a bit out of the bag. It was the development of the CCRS, the Continuing Certification Requirement System. Let's take a look at a few project markers here and just get an idea of what the project was all about. Maybe what was the official name and who was the sponsor? Let's start with that.
Well, the official name was actually the Continuing Certification Requirements System Project.
Okay.
The sponsor was actually my boss, who is John Doyle, the VP of Finance and Operations.
Okay. What were some of the goals that you were trying to reach with this project? And looking back in lessons learned that you did you find that you reached all of those goals?
I think the primary goal of the project was obviously, it's world-class satisfaction. With our third party that we have involved, and we had complexities and delays that we weren't able to work around. So I think the ultimate goal was actually world-class, deliver a world-class system with the scalability. In the end, based on our surveys and based on our customer feedback, we actually achieved those goals in terms of just being on the cusp of a world-class transactional system.
Mm-hmm. Who was the project manager?
Project manager was Randy Holt. He's a PMB here with us at PMI. He had experience delivering some of our other credentials that were out there, so we knew he would actually be a good fit with the project. And actually was very talented and very experienced, and was a great fit for the project. Okay.
And maybe some of the project team members that you had. I know PMI oftentimes reaches out and brings in volunteers to help with projects that are being done, especially in the certifications area. So was this purely an internal project where PMI GOC employees worked on, or did you also have volunteers on the project team?
Yeah, this was absolutely not an internal PMI project. When we started this out of the gate, we knew we were going to get our stakeholders involved in the project every step of the way. And we involved them through a usability analysis. We also did wireframes testing. And this wasn't just North America-centric. We actually reached out to individuals in China, Japan, India, Africa, from all over the world, so we had a global perspective of the system. And then we actually present them with some functionality, and they would review it and give us feedback, which we incorporate into our release that we would actually do later on.
Mm-hmm. I think one thing that's important to understand is every project we have starts with some sort of market-based research. So, and I know your question was more towards the actual physical involvement of people who aren't employees of PMI on the project, but we also start with the market need. The other thing is a lot of the volunteers that Mark's referring to, where we did the usability study, while they might not be employees from a legal sense of PMI, and we consider all of our volunteer leaders and all of our chapter leaders and components all part of the PMI family, staff, or extended team. So all of our projects extend out around the globe utilizing our volunteer workforce.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so let's see if I get this right. So your stakeholders were obviously Mark, your boss, then the PMI, the PMI internal staff. We have definitely some of the registered education providers. They must have been your stakeholders, and obviously the credential holders are some of the stakeholders that I can see right off the bat here. What other stakeholders did you have?
Well, every project we run here is cross-functional. So, within the internal staff, it's not just one department. So certification is one of the departments that I'm responsible for. So we were a stakeholder, but we also had to have the financial model that would enable success. We had to have the IT department, who also was working with external, vendors, contracts, and folks in here engaged. We had to have the marketing department, which wanted to help us communicate to all these various stakeholder groups that works with outside vendors. So there was a lot of third parties that were involved with this on top of just the participants who did usability studies and the market research. And then the ones that you were referring to, obviously all those that provide professional development units are interested parties. All those that earn professional development units are interested parties. And all of us who have to service both those constituent bases are interested parties.
Okay. How long did the project start? How long did the project take, in terms of duration, start date, end date?
Probably all told, the project took close to probably about 24 months. We went through it. We made sure we did it right. We built flexibility in the schedule, so we did encounter any difficulties, which we didn't. We were fortunate, and that we had enough flexibility so we could get it delivered on time. But it was about 24 months altogether.
Yeah, and I assume since this was a complete revamp of your previous system, which I think was somewhere from the late 90s, this was a big bang release, right? This was, you went from the old to the new system in one go.
You're exactly right. So we had a communication plan in place so we could notify the people through the appropriate channels to let them know the new system was coming. And really, the fortunate thing about the release is that when we did turn the system over, we were actually staffed accordingly for many questions and inquiries. And the beauty of the system when we released it is that people really delved right into the system, found into it enough where we didn't get a whole lot of feedback or negative feedback about the system.
Okay. I think the other thing to also put forward is it wasn't simply a system project. It was also a data migration project. So, Cornelius, when you entered the system on day one, all of your historical information was in there.
Yeah, I would have expected that, yeah.
Exactly. That's what people expected, so we had to deliver it. But that's a difficult portion of the process. We wanted to make sure that anyone who entered that system on day one didn't lose any of their valuable historical information. They couldn't. And, when they interacted with the system, it wasn't as if we had two systems, the old one and the new one, and the data that you used to have was resident in the old one, and everything going forward was in the new system. So it's not just a system project, but also a data migration project.
Yes, I understand. I completely understand. Maybe you want to walk us through the project on a high level here, please. I mean, it was a 24-month project. How did you approach it? How was it approached? And what were some of the most important activities and milestones that come to your mind?
Well, I mean, the first thing to understand is that PMI uses the stage gate process. Are you familiar with that?
Yes.
Okay, so we utilize that for any new product development initiative, as well as any major infrastructure projects which affect a large population of our stakeholder groups. So that's why this project was run under the stage gate process, because there's so many of our stakeholders who were involved or would have been affected. It goes right to the heart and soul of PMI's brand. Mm-hmm. So as we took the CCRS project through the gated process and went through each gate, the first gate is an ideation. What do we think we should do and why we think we should do it? That goes through our executive group, and as it proceeds through that, the team is then asked to create what we call scoping. Scope out a preliminary business case. And that preliminary business case, that's where they start coming through with the product definition, why they should do this, some preliminary financials, and they do all the things that they need to do to justify the creation of a real business case. So they get through that gate. Then they spend some time going through the real business case. And the real business case is where they come up with the specific product specifications, they RFP potential vendors, they come up with the financial models and returns, they come up with the preliminary marketing and communication plans, they come up with the customer service expectations and models, they look at any legal implications and branding implications and go through that process, and they come to what we call Gate 3, which is the gate in which they request funding to build. As you get through that gate, and by the way, each of these phases is run as kind of the whole thing is a project, but each of these phases is run as a project as well, with schedules and resources and work breakdown structures and budgets that people have to adhere to for each of the stages of the project. And as they get through one gate, they get approval to carry on to the next gate. Once you get through gate 3, that's the build. The business case and the build typically tend to take the most of the time. Off the top of my head, I would guess that of the 24 months, we probably spent 85% of it in those 2 gates, the development of the business case and the building of the project. After we build it, we require all teams, even whether it's a new product development effort or if it's an infrastructure project, to pilot it. We're not just going to launch something to everyone unless we've tested it. So that's the pilot stage. Team went through that pilot stage, and after a successful pilot, incorporating learnings from the pilot, we launch. So all throughout the process, we intermingle flexible and up-to-date project management processes to go through the stage gate process, which allows us gated opportunities to keep checking with the executive group to make sure that we're doing the proper things.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Sounds like you must have had an enormously large project team working on all of this. This is probably one of the markers here that's missing, one of the key indicators. What was the number of volunteers team members that you had on the project?
Well, I mean, every team has multiple dimensions and sub-teams. Yeah. So there was a core team of 7-8 people, right? We had an extended team with consulting team members that got very large, depending upon how you want to cut it. I mean, there was a marketing representative on the team, for example. Now, she goes off and she will lead an effort to come back with a marketing communication plan. She will engage with various stakeholders outside of the project, the core project team, to make sure that the things that they're coming up with resonate with the various stakeholders. So, for example, testing it with credential holders, testing it with our Certification Governance Council, testing it with other volunteer leaders and REPs to make sure what they're doing as part of that sub-project team makes sense. She'll then bring that back into the fold, and then the core team will agree upon it. So if you look at the full team, you're talking, maybe hundreds of people, depending upon how wide your definition of the team might be. But again, it starts with a core team of 7 or 8, then it starts extending into sub-teams based upon which portion of the business case that they're creating or building. And when they go build the product, you're obviously then getting more people involved, like people who are coding and the people who are developing and the people who are testing and so forth.
Mm. With that many team members involved and also with that many stakeholders that have interest in this project, you probably must have had some kind of pushback coming your way. What kind of pushback did you have? How was it dealt with? How was it resolved?
I would tell you this is one of those very, very unique projects. Obviously, the team had to make some difficult decisions on how we got the project created, what functionality we could do first versus phases. But this was one of those unique projects where we couldn't do it quick enough. Right. Everybody wanted us to do it. The system that we had in place was servicing a group of individuals that was too large for it. It was one of those very few projects I've been involved with where everyone agreed we needed to do it quicker than we possibly could, so all hands were on deck to get it done. Now, the complexity of it and how critical important it was the reason it lent itself to being as long as Mark mentioned, 24 months. But it wasn't because of pushback or internal or external resistance or because we were having difficulty migrating our way down or agreeing upon how to do it. It was simply because it was too critical and important to go quickly.
It was too important to be done quickly. Did I understand you right?
Well, it's too important to be done without very clear and consistent checkpoints.
Right.
So
that's what I understood.
Let me be very clear about that. We always want to produce things as quickly as we possibly can, but we did extra checks on this one because of how critical the deliverable was.
Oh, yes, I fully understand this, and I have to commend you on making this particular decision, because oftentimes what I see out in the field is if a project, is important, people will just keep pushing and pushing and pushing and cut corners left and right, just so they can get it out to the market. And once it reaches the market, the market goes, what on earth did you produce here for us? So my commendations to you to actually, understand this and making sure that, you said, no, we're not going to run with this. We're going to take this at a pace that we feel comfortable with so that we can actually deliver a product that meets the requirements and the needs of our stakeholders. Congrats.
No, thank you for that. I mean, I have to say part of that is we believe we do effective work here. But the other portion of that really is the environment that we work within. If you think about the individuals who we advocate on behalf of, the project management, program management community, and portfolio management community, they wouldn't expect anything less of us. Mm-hmm. So we know that our projects are going to go under serious scrutiny, and they should, because the people who are doing these projects for, one, care very much about the profession that we're working with, and but two, know what we're doing because they practice this profession themselves. So that's why we, as we go back to one of your original questions, we flexibly utilize the principles in the PMBOK guide, and we apply them consistently and with rigor here in PMI.
Okay. On a 24-month-long project, something crazy has to happen. Are there any funny anecdotes from this project that you can share with us?
That was perfect, Cornelius. Not one problem.
Okay, I believe that.
Well, yeah. I mean, we had a lot of funny little stories. I'm not sure, a multitude of them, which probably wouldn't make sense to those that are outside the core team or the extended team. And I don't think what we found was a ton of these. We didn't find any major ahas in our lessons learned, a whole bunch of small types of things. I think one of the things that we did learn was, how we can utilize the rigor in standardization that we applied to such a large project to some of the smaller ones without overburdening the smaller ones. So if you go back to the risk and return, if there's something that has huge risk to your brand, to your company, you're going to want to, not that you would shortchange smaller projects, but you're going to want to really apply rigor and as we just discussed to this project. But we learned some things about the team interaction and how they engage with one another and how you can apply that rigor to the smaller projects as well without holding them up. I don't know, all the other funny stories I would tell you might incriminate some folks, so I don't know if I should share them.
All right, let's skip this then. Let's come back to the certificates. We know that there are about 385,000 of us out there who are required to earn PDUs on a regular basis in order to keep our certification going. So how did you communicate this project to all of us? Because this must have been probably a communications almost nightmare to be able to get to all of these people, because they're not just in one location. They're throughout the world. You may not have their updated information. It must have been very difficult. How did you do this?
Yeah, well, it's very difficult because not only do you have a lot of people to communicate with, but you have a lot of different ways in which they like to be communicated to, depending upon their personal styles and depending upon where they live and so forth. So we used a lot of our traditional means. If you're familiar with our publications, the way we communicate with our credential holders, we have a PMP passport, we have PMI Today, we have our website. We have all the various communications that go out to our constituents on a regular basis. So we utilize those. We engage with our channel partners, the REPs, made sure they were clear about what was going on and they would reach out to their students. The critical group that we leveraged was our component group, making sure that the chapters in the virtual communities understood what was going on so that they can communicate to their constituents. So we utilize a whole series of mechanisms to get out to people. This isn't one of those things where you can just pop something in the mail to everybody and hope they read it. We utilize the email, we utilize the publications, we utilize channel partners. We did everything we could to make sure that individuals who would be affected understood what was happening, and we're excited about the changes because these are exciting things. That it's easier to attract PDUs and earn PDUs now.
Yes, I have to admit that is in fact the case. For you personally, maybe what was the most surprising aspect of this project that you came across?
I think for myself personally is that as we released a product to significant applause. And being in a back office customer service type operation, generally when we release a product, usually the first one to experience firsthand the wrath of the customers. Fortunately, when we delivered this thing, there was absolutely no wrath to be found. It was nothing but positive feedback. And we worked hard during the course of the project to ensure it was a very intuitive product that we released. And when we released it, it was. And we had absolutely no negative feedback at all. And even to this day, because we're so on top of the feedback that we're receiving from customers and from our stakeholders, we still have nothing but positive feedback from customers about the product. So I think for me personally, the big pleasant surprise, and also the big cheer from my group too, was that it went out to really sort of a lot of appeal globally.
I think the biggest surprise for me, I cannot remember any other project I've been involved with that had such uniform agreement that we should do it. There's always one loud minority or one group that can provide you all the reasons not to do it. This was a significant investment on behalf of our stakeholders, and there wasn't one single solitary group of all the different channel partners, of all the different stakeholders who told us we shouldn't do this. So I don't know. I can't think of many projects I've been involved with that have had that type of background.
Okay. Well, we started out this interview with the question whether or not you followed the framework that's outlined in the PMBOK guide. And one of the things that the PMBOK guide outlines is lessons learned at the end of every project. So let's take a look at the lessons learned here as our final question. What were some of the lessons learned that you would say now in looking back, if we had to do this again, this is something that we would have to do differently?
I have one, and it would be something that the team would tell me is unfair, but I'll say it anyway.
They always say that.
Yeah, I would have done it sooner. And I don't know if the team would agree that again, that's fair assessment. They might have wanted to do it sooner, and we might not have been ready, but I would have done this sooner. I think this is one of those things where we came too close to risking world-class service performance because of system failure. And luckily, the team bonded together and got this through the process in time to make sure that there was no interruption to service to our stakeholders. So the lesson learned is maybe not let the pendulum slip too far to what could have been potentially crisis before you act upon a critical project. That being said, this, like everything else, is weighed against all the other priorities that are put forward by the board of directors and their strategic plan, and then we budget for in our program plan and budget. So it was the right time to do it, but of course, I would have liked to do it sooner.
Mm-hmm. Mark, anything that comes to your mind?
No, actually, until Brian mentioned that, there was nothing that actually came to my mind, but I think I had to agree with Brian on that. I mean, it would have been nice if we could have done this maybe 5, 6, 7 years ago, but with any organization, there's always competing priorities too, so I'm sort of in agreement with Brian with that one.
All right. Brian, Mark, once again, thank you very much for your time, for coming on the Project Management Podcast and talking to us about the PMI CCRS project. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Our pleasure. Thank you.
And that was our interview with Brian Weiss and Mark Emery about PMI's project management methodology. That's it for today. Thank you very much for listening. As always, you can find us on the web at pm-podcast.com, and don't forget that dash in there is important. If you are a project manager who wants to become a PMP, then the easiest way to do so is with our sister podcast, the Project Management Prepcast, and study for the exam by watching over 38 hours of video training from pmprepcast.com. Please send your emails to info@pm-podcast.com, and when you write, please tell me where in the world you are writing from. And finally, we have this. If you know that you have the time and the budget to do your project all over again, then you'll never try and do it right the first time. Until next time.